and welcome to the Laughter Channel. My guest today is Merv Neal. Welcome, Merv. So good to see you yet again. And to have you here on this program especially. Merv is Australia's leading gelotologist. Yes, that is a real word. And we're going to explore on that in a moment. Merv Neal, you've been the CEO of Laughter Yoga Australia for some time, and it was actually a work-related health incident in 2002 that showed you firsthand the reason why they say laughter is the best medicine. You've become a leading authority on laughter, having completed now several research studies, and more recently become a medically published author. But, and I wish I had a drum roll I could insert here. Maybe we'll just have a laughter roll. Merv has now created the Laughter Quotient. Yes, that's quotient. Which actually treats laughter as a science and a future method to use laughter as a medicine and as a therapy. So Merv, welcome to the show. And before we begin, I actually have a little confession I want to make.
Oh no. Where is this going? You didn't tell me about this. You didn't tell me about this.
No, I actually have a bit of a passion for gelato. But I know it's not ice cream that's driven you as a gelotologist. Tell us briefly what a gelotologist is and how you came into this.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. My story goes back to 2002, as you said. If anybody wants the longer version, it's on YouTube under The Laughing Man. I saw you promoted it earlier this week. Everybody can go into the details of it there. It's just an interesting story about how I got sick from too much work. I pushed myself way too far for way too long, combined with alcohol and all the bad living and all that sort of stuff, all in the pursuit of money, because that is everybody's dream, to be rich and wealthy. Well, it is in business anyway, or it should be, because, you know, that's what business is all about, making money. And I just pushed myself way too far, way too hard for way too long, and I got sick. But I got sick at the peak of my career. This was the annoying part, and this is why I started to laugh what they call pathologically. You know, the brain doesn't quite compute what's going on. This part doesn't add up to this part, and I should be crying and in distress, yet I was actually laughing. So that's what pathological laughter is. And on receipt of the news saying, you know, you're in a really bad way, you're not going to pull through this, I just started to laugh. And the doctor said, what's so funny? I said, well, the situation is funny. You know, life is funny through its drama and its distress and the way that things happen to different people. Don't you think that's funny? And they're just shaking their head going, we think you've lost your mind. And essentially with pathological laughter, you have lost your mind. So they just got me out of the hospital as quickly as possible, because there's not a lot of laughing goes on in hospitals. And I just went away and continued to laugh and laugh and laugh. And this was in conjunction with eating oysters, which I didn't like, and walking my dog regularly. So all of these things just started happening. It was all innate. It all makes sense in hindsight what was happening, because all of the things that I was doing was what I should have been doing beforehand to look after my body, the exercise and the laughter and, you know, eating the things that my body craved rather than what I thought it craved. Yeah, and I got better after 7 months. And after that time, I just said, well, I've been given a second chance at life here. What am I going to do with my new life? And I'm doing it now. When I started out with this crazy laughter stuff and saying to everybody, laugh, it could save your life, they're going, well, that's good for you, but, you know, that was your story, not our story. And I found out that other people's story and their reasoning for wanting to get something to help them is often based on evidence-based practice or research studies. So I thought, boy, I better get some research going. So 60 Minutes, the rather notable TV program, decided to do an article on In Pursuit of Happiness, and Charles Woolley once again, a very well-known reporter here in Australia, travelled the world in pursuit of happiness. And they came up to one of our conferences. We were in the Adelaide Hills, a whole bunch of kooky laughers, including Dr. Kataria, who is the founder of Laughter Yoga International and the whole concept of laughter clubs. And they said, look, we're just going to come up there. We just want a bit of laughing, a bit of colour, a bit of noise, you know, nothing too serious. And they got there and they couldn't leave. They're going, oh my goodness, what are you people doing? They just got so fixated on what we were doing in pursuit of happiness. And Charles Woolley, once again, the article is under 60 minutes there, in pursuit of happiness. And at the end of it, Charles said, I travelled the world in pursuit of happiness, but was never happier than when I was with those crazy people in the Adelaide Hills. I'm going, oh, we've made it. Hey, this is fantastic. So our websites went into meltdown at that point because everybody wants to be happy. But there was one particular person in that article who was a professor of happiness. And I thought, wow, if he's a professor of happiness, maybe he is the doorway into me doing a evidence-based research study. So I called him up and got him on the phone, and I just said, apparently you're this professor of happiness, and Charles was never happier than with us, and I want to show people that laughter has many, many benefits. One of the things is to keep you happy. And over a lunch, which he paid for, we ended up walking out and agreeing that we would do our first research study, and we did. And that was just one of those tipping points when we got the evidence back from the research study. It was on people in business, the first one, because that's where I've always been in business, so that's where I morphed back to. And we got the results back from the business one. I'm going, this is my dream, to have this evidence to say to business people, guess what, if you laugh, you are less stressed, you're less likely to experience anxiety and depression, and then puts you into a good mood. It gives you greater control, greater risk, personal life satisfaction, workplace well-being. Here's the data that says, I might be a bit kooky and a bit weird, but the laughter works. And that blew me away in business, and that was absolutely awesome. And that was the first research study. The second one, and tell me when to stop talking because I'll talk for weeks on this. It's a lousy interview when one person just talks the whole time. The second one was also with Deakin University, and this was with Professor Paul Bennett, and he is in charge of renal nursing. Now that is kidney dialysis and kidney nursing, and he came across me with the first research study in Deakin University, and he sat in on one of the meetings, and I never knew why. And then about 18 months after we'd completed the first one, I got a call from him, and he said, you may not remember me, but I'm going, yeah, I do remember you. Why are you calling me? He said, we want you to do a research study with people undergoing kidney dialysis. I'm going, wow, this is in the health system, you know, once again, a major area for laughter. And gelotology is the research based on the impact of people's physiology and physicality and mind, and that as a result of introducing laughter to them. That's what gelotology is. It's the science of laughter. And so he introduced me to a place called a kidney dialysis unit. Now, you are a nurse of many years, Pat, so you would know all about this. For other people who don't, it's an area where people lie there for 4 or 5 hours per day, every second day, and the blood gets taken out of them, it gets cleaned and put back into their body, and that becomes their life. About 20% of them will die of other related illnesses as a result of undergoing kidney dialysis. And these people that we were working with were actually struck off the register for kidney replacement. So these people, this was their life forever and ever until they got sick and died from other related illnesses. The point I'm making is there was nothing to laugh about in a kidney dialysis unit. Some of them had had legs amputated because of gangrene. They were blind because of diabetes type 2. English was their second language, and they were just lying there undergoing a medical procedure. This is a medical procedure that they call it. And Paul pointed them and he said, can you get them to laugh? I said, mate, if I can get them to laugh, I can get anyone to laugh. And these people just killed themselves laughing for a month. They thought this was the best thing that had ever happened in the unit because they weren't fantastic places. The main thing that come out of this research study, Pat, was that a thing called intradialytic hypertensive episodes, IDHEs. Now, I like to say that because it makes me sound so important. But these people inherently have low blood pressure. And what happens when you take blood out of someone to clean it, if they got low blood pressure, their blood pressure can go so low that they can actually have a cardiac arrest and die. So when an alarm goes off that says warning, warning, warning in the ward, it means that someone's about to die. It's a really stressful and distressing situation for that person, for the other people experiencing it in the ward and watching it, and of course the staff. The 4 weeks prior to us going in there was 19 alarms in the ward. The 4 weeks during our laughter, there was 19 alarms in the ward. So that was significant because that meant that we were not doing anybody any harm. Professor Paul said he was waiting for the alarms to go off left, right and centre because these people were going through a laughter exercise program, undergoing a medical procedure. So that was significant that we didn't any of these people no harm. Then the big result come 4 weeks later when they measured it, and the amount of alarms that went off in that 4 week period was 4. So they went back and they're going, hang on, what just happened there? All of a sudden, 19, 19, 4. And they went back and checked the blood pressures, and they found that the blood pressure in these people had increased to the point where they could undergo this procedure in a less harmful way. So that becomes significant. Paul put it out there. It got medically published in a journal, and that's when the emails started to go off asking for Dr. Neil to go and present at conferences, which I'm not a doctor, so I find that funny every time I get an invitation to do that. So from a medical point of view, we not only found that laughter can reduce blood pressure, but it can also increase blood pressure, and this is the balance that laughter provides. So that was the 2 research studies that we've done.
Yep, yep. And then your latest initiative, which you mentioned at the close of the laughter conference towards the end of last year in Sydney, was the development of what you're calling the laughter quotient.
Yes.
And for any of the people listening, I looked up the dictionary, and the term quotient tells me that quotient is the result of a division. That is, the number of times one quantity is contained within another. So laughter quotient, we're talking about what? Some kind of breakdown here. It sounds a bit chemical. What are you doing?
I like the interview question, Pat. What are you doing? The other thing we found, Pat, is we're about to do a 3rd research study with Monash Health regarding pain. And we know that we can reduce pain with laughter. It's a no-brainer. It's a given, but nobody has actually really, truly measured that and how much pain could be reduced. But some people experience greater relief of pain or absence of pain for a greater, longer period of time than other people. And I'm going, what is the variable here? And the variable is the way people laugh. So I thought, what if we could come up with a mathematical equation that said, this is how you laugh? Now, the benefit of that is it gets people closer to their authentic laugh. And we can actually, with this equation, I'll give you the equation shortly, we can actually see it in a wave on a screen and look at it. So we get a visual of this person's laughter. My daughter is a concert flautist and pianist, so she has a thing called perfect pitch. She doesn't need to do anything else except listen to a note and go higher, lower. There it is there. I have perfect pitch for laughter. I can hear someone's laughter and go, you're not quite there. It needs to be changed. It needs to be this. And I can actually train them and coach them through that process. And then I go, it sounds great. We then look at it visually on a screen through an app and go, it looks great. And then I say to the person, how did that feel? And they said, it felt great. So something that looks great, sounds great, and feels great has got to be great for you. So our next research that we're doing, we want to do it with different people. And I want to listen to people and get a visual and ask them how that felt by training them to laugh in a particular way to see if that has a greater medical benefit than people who are just laughing, dare I say it, ad hoc. And that's what the laughter quotient is all about.
And look, something's come up for me just as we were talking, and I know, well, I don't think you had the laughter quotient in your mind back then. Several years back, a young girl came to, I think she came through one of the conferences to become associated with you, Kat. And
Yes.
When she invested a lot of time into laughing, her vision actually improved.
Oh, Pat, don't start me on the stories that I have over many, many years of people experiencing all sorts of medical breakthroughs. My vision became better in what was a dead eye for Kat. That's just one of many, many stories. There was a person just recently, only about a month ago, started to cry and salivate, and that's the first time that she had been able to do that in the last 18 months since she'd been diagnosed with a syndrome that said your fluids in your body have dried up. So we have, my story is a story as well, and we have these stories everywhere of people who have been healed through laughter. But I want to take away the chance that laugh and you might be enhanced in some way. And so we got it down to the mathematical equation. And for those playing at home, I'm now going to give you the laughter quotient. And the top line, because quotient means the division, is length times repetition. So L times R. So the length of our laughter is really, really important because laughter is an exhalation process. So if someone's wanting to be helped to be healed or therapeutically with laughter, if they sit there and go, ha, 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 it's probably not going to work because laughter has to be a certain length of time. But then we have to do it over and over again in a period of time. So it's no different to any other exercise program where we do lots of squats or lots of sit-ups or lots of push-ups or lots of curls or something like that. It's the repetition and the length of time that we do it that's absolutely significant. Then we divide that by the volume times the pitch. So the volume is all about the expulsion of the air coming from deep down here. So you can't get a volume of laughter going through your vocal cords and making a laughter sound unless you're pushing from down here. And everybody, certainly in my area and in yoga, says that everything comes from your core. So if we can get people laughing a little bit louder, that maybe they should be, that's because we need to get it coming from the core and engaging our muscles down here. And the other is the pitch. So the pitch of our laughter comes from the position of our voice box. So if we push our voice box up towards our mouth and go like that, it means that these muscles here on our throat are working harder to push that voice box up. But that's not very good because we want the pitch to come down to get those voice folds open, to get it a little bit deeper so that we can actually get the laughter coming from deep down within. So the laughter quotient is length times repetition divided by volume times pitch. And for those Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy experts out there, the answer is 42 to everything. But the laughter quotient enables us to play with those numbers and still get to 42. So we're not saying there is only one way to laugh. There's lots of ways to laugh by playing with the different variables so that it sounds right, it looks right. But then when I take people through this process, I'm going, sounds right, looks right, how does it feel? And they go, it feels fantastic. And that has to be where the therapy of laughter comes from. It has to be.
Yeah, yeah. And we've so... My father was a funny man, and I recently found a photo. I think it might have been my 21st, and we were all sitting around the kitchen table at the end of the night, and I was telling a joke, and my father's there just, we just belly laughed for minutes, right?
Yeah.
Many, probably 10 minutes more.
Yes.
It just went on and on and on and on, and, the tears and breathless.
Yeah.
And yeah, there are so many people who look out to the world and can't see hope, they can't see the goodwill, they're missing so much. And, you know, this is just another field that I'm seeing can, you know, enhance awareness. I was mentioning to you earlier the pilot that I did using laughter yoga in aged care back in 2000, 2001. We did it every day. We did 30 minutes every day for 90 days. And in that time, I don't have any clinical results, but we do have good records of that period. And what they did was they took back their power. They had passive recipients. It was a good rest home, nothing wrong with the facility. But they were, you know, the whole thing with the breathing is they were inspired. Right? And they started to make fun of their infirmity over that 90 days. So it creates a shift even in those who don't have a lot of ability to be making, you know, fully conscious effort. You know, I just so see in the mental health and aged care area, just as two areas, where this could be a boon if we can get people to see.
Well, the one thing that you don't feel like doing when you're not well in any way, shape or form is laugh, yet that's when the therapy needs to be induced. So with this long-term, with the laughter quotient, not just Merv, but Pat and doctors and nurses will be able to use the app and analyse someone's laughter and go, look, according to the laughter quotient, you're nearly there. It doesn't sound right, doesn't quite look right. Maybe we can help you. Maybe if you make this a little bit longer, a little bit louder. And then the doctor goes, I'd like you to do that laughter quotient laugh 3 times a day for 10 minutes per day for 2 weeks, and then come back and see me and I will assess how you're going. That's how medicine works. Medicine works on the doctor prescribing this amount of this drug this many times a day for a period of time, and then come back and we will see what happens. So the laughter quotient fits into that. For those of you who have read the papers in the last couple of days, massive situation with opiates at the moment. You know, people taking painkillers to the point where I think it was something like 2,700 people per year in Australia die from accidental overdoses of painkillers. We have to find another thing that the doctors can prescribe along with or apart from painkillers, because painkillers are killing people at 2,700 per year, 26,000 in the United States, all due to opiates because people are experiencing pain. So I want doctors to get out their prescription book, and I'm sure you'll get these prescription books made up for me, Pat. There won't be any person better than you to make up these prescription books. And we want to prescribe laughter, this type of laughter, this many times a day for this many weeks, and then come back and see your doctor and see how you're going, you know, because that's how medicine works.
Yeah. My doctor in Australia is just an ordinary doctor, you know, as part of a bigger practice. And one day he said to me, he said, "What do you do again?" And I told him, and he said, "I probably need to be coming to see you."
Yes. A couple of doctors could do with a laugh. Boy, do they have a tough job at the moment. Their turnaround times, 8-minute turnaround times and that sort of stuff. They've got a really tough gig to get people in, diagnose, prescribe and get them out. And now with this opiate thing, according to the federal government, they've banned them from chemists, so you've got to go and see a doctor. So all it's going to do is give the doctors more work. So I don't know where that's going to end up. But I just keep on thinking there's got to be another way. And with the laughter quotient, it's an alternative for people to go, wow, what if I could actually train myself to laugh in a therapeutic way? And that's what it is. It's in the early days, Pat, but people like yourself, bless you, who are helping me get the word out there. I've had some great interest from here and overseas in the concept. And once again, it's just about getting that evidence out there that says the laughter quotient works for these people. and we're doing research studies, practice-based evidence, not evidence-based practice, with the Laughter Online University in America. And we're getting some great results from the whole thing. So very exciting future for anybody who's in the world of laughter, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. The one of the places when I shared this interview, as you know, I've just been talking to people running a cancer conference in New Zealand, and they've been doing that for a number of years now. So, you know, my first port of call post this being edited will be to provide them with a copy. And, you know, with a view that, you know, down the track, perhaps next time they meet and get together, that we can get you an invitation to present there and, you know, be delivering into that space as well.
Yeah, just as an example on that, and we know that with laughter, it's good for oxygenation of the body and helping to prevent and helping to people to be cured with cancer. We know that laughter is really, really good for them. That's why your friend Patch Adams took it to the cancer wards in the early days. People know that laughter and oxygen in the cells of the body is really good in relation to cancer. My belief is there is a particular type of laugh that will be good for cancer. All right, there's some sort of laugh and it's in the laughter quotient there somewhere. So just as the doctors administer chemotherapy, radiotherapy, there's got to be a particular type of laugh, and I don't know what it is yet, that is really, really good for a cancer and really, really good for dementia and really, really good for. So that's where this laughter quotient thing has the ability to open the doors to those sorts of things. So yes, very exciting.
To having another conversation a couple of months down the track to, you know, to really explore where the resonance is, like how do we measure it? In reflexology, there's a whole raft of expressions that tell us that any resonance under 200 is not good for health. And any resonance over 200 and up to 1,000, just, you know, progressively better. And this is in relation to our moods and emotions, and you know, a resonance has been determined. So, you know, it's got to be sitting up there. Love sits at 700. My doctor tells me he thinks laughter has a resonance the same as white light. So I don't know what that resonance is. So, you know, it's got to be sitting up there in those really high levels. So yeah, it's really interesting to see.
Yeah, well, the resonance is a frequency, is a vibration, you know, so it's all in the equation there, and we just have to prove it. But yes, interesting about the love is a resonance of 700. It's right up there with where we need to be and where we want to be. And when we're in love, life is great. so hopefully we can bring the laughter into that level as well too. So interesting times ahead, Pat. Interesting times ahead.
Yes. So if people want to have connect with you in any way, what's the best way for them to do that? What's your website?
My website is mervneil.com.
Yep.
My email address, merv@mervneil.com. Just type in Merv Neil and Google search it. I tend to pop up all around the place and really easy to get in touch with. So yeah, I'm happy to talk to anybody anytime about anything relative to laughter, because that's my job.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, and connect with you again soon.
Thanks, Pat. Take care. Bye-bye.